Good evening, everyone. My name is Chaz Mailey. I'm the coordinator of the Alcohol and Other Drug Education Service at Counseling Services here at K-State, and this is...
Yeah, good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for coming. It's good to see you all. My name is Mike Dreiling, and I am the Project ABC coordinator, and I work in conjunction with Chaz with AODS.
So kind of the function of our presentation this evening is talk about ways that people can stay safe when they go home for the holidays. Now, just a bit of a caveat, we're going to be looking primarily at alcohol and managing drinking and finding other things that you might be able to do. We won't be exploring things like how not to get kidnapped if you're traveling abroad. So why is this presentation important? Well, we want to be able to provide you guys some information about making good decisions and making good choices. We understand that the risk for different problems is increased over the holidays. We want to make sure that you're doing things like talking to your family, engaging with friends, having a good time. We're not here to say, don't drink. That's not really the point of this presentation. The point is, if you are going to drink, how can you do it in a safe manner? So our office, and you have to excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold. Our office is located in the English and Counseling Services building, so it's right over here somewhere next to Hale Library. These are just some of the different resources that we have available to students. Just a quick little plug for Counseling Services. If you're interested in talking with someone about any issues that may arise, because there are many that can occur when you're in college, there's 4 free sessions that you can come in and speak with someone. If you want to continue beyond that, the copay is very cheap. If for some reason you're looking at like interpersonal difficulties, things like that, you can sign up for what's called group therapy. I think that's a really good way of learning how you interact with others, giving feedback and getting feedback. And we've got biofeedback. Essentially, you're hooked up to some equipment, and they teach you about how you're responding to anxiety-provoking stimuli, so like giving presentations or interacting with people or preparing for exams or taking tests, and then you can learn different strategies for sort of lowering that. And then, again, we've got the Alcohol and Drug Education Service. We can provide you information about alcohol and drugs. We can do some consultation. We can help if you think you have a problem or if you think someone you know has an issue. We can help in managing or mitigate that. So, kind of the things that we see around the holidays is there's these different events that are sort of sanctioned for drinking. I don't know if anyone is familiar with the term Blackout Wednesday. I don't know if I'm dating myself with that or if that's something that people actually use now. Do people still use that anymore, Blackout Wednesday? Has anyone heard of that? Thirsty Thursday? Okay, but does anyone know what Blackout Wednesday is? Yeah, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Thank you. It's kind of this idea, everyone's back in town, let's get together, let's have a good time. Tomorrow we're going to be with our family, we'll be eating a lot so we can kind of have a very carefree night the day before. New Year's and Christmas, New Year's and Christmas, again, is just something that, again, there's a tendency for individuals to get together and drink more often. And you look at these folks, it looks like they're having a good time, and we're hoping that, your holidays can be safe and fun as well. So, how does alcohol impact the body? Well, it's a central nervous system depressant, so it impacts the brain and the spinal cord. We'll look at the different areas of the brain just very briefly and how alcohol has an impact. So, the primary function or primary part of the brain that's impacted first by alcohol is the frontal lobes. And so what are the frontal lobes responsible for? They're responsible for planning, impulse control. They're kind of the control center for all the other brain functions in your body. They control urges and emotions. They're sort of important for planning, problem solving. So more specifically, if you look at the prefrontal cortex, that's considered the part for executive functioning. That's what helps us not respond impulsively when things are occurring. Unfortunately, during adolescence and early adulthood, the prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed, and so there's a greater tendency to engage in risky behaviors, and that's before a person starts drinking. And when you're actually consuming a lot of alcohol, that problem can be even worse. So something that may not have seemed like a good idea before you were drinking may seem like a very good idea after. Getting behind the wheel of a car, doing cartwheels out in the snow, anything that you might think was a good idea before is something that's really not all that beneficial for you. When we get to the midbrain, we're looking at the function of the hippocampus. The hippocampus is really important in memories and developing memories. Over time, again, these are things related to binge drinking, as you're drinking more, the hippocampus function is actually depressed, and so what will happen is you can't start forming new memories. So even after a couple of drinks, like say you meet someone earlier in the night, you may forget their name a couple hours later. This is actually the region of the brain that is responsible for blackout, and so you may see a person that seems like they're relatively well functioning. They seem to be coherent, they're having a conversation, they're kind of ambulating or walking around okay, but then there actually aren't any new memories that are being formed, and so you could have a long stretch of time where you basically just kind of forget what happened. So I don't know, and you don't have to raise your hand, but if anyone's had this experience where you start drinking, things seemed pretty good, and then at some point in time, like everything is gone, and then you wake up in a cornfield, or you wake up on someone's couch, and you're like, whose house is this? You may wake up in someone's bed and say, whose bed is this? And so, again, you just want to be really cautious if you are drinking about what it is you're doing. Alcohol also affects the hindbrain, and so that's like the medulla, the hypothalamus, and the cerebellum. These are pretty critical as far as regulation of automatic functioning, so like your heartbeat and respiration. As these areas are starting to be, and then coordination and movement, as these areas are impacted, you see people that are kind of stumbling around, losing their balance, things like that. A person's hand can become very shaky after just having a few drinks. One of the problems that we see sometimes, like when someone gets alcohol poisoning, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, is there's no gag reflex anymore. And so if for some reason you are to pass out and you're laying on your back, and for some reason, because you have too much to drink, you vomit, you actually could choke on your own vomit. And so it's one of those things you just want to be really careful about when you're drinking. So visual acuity is impacted. You start distorting things a little bit more. Someone who earlier in the night maybe doesn't appear that attractive becomes more attractive as you've had more to drink. So you want to be cautious about that. It actually slows the blood flow, so like to the extremities and things like that. So if it's like really cold outside, that can increase the risk of things like hypothermia, frostbite. The alcohol is absorbed in the stomach and then processed in the liver and the kidneys and things like that. But if you're having too much, there's an excess of toxin in your system. Your stomach can't handle that, and so then you will throw up. So Mike and I will kind of talk about some of the risks that are associated with binge drinking. We talked a little bit more before about the accidents and slips and falls. This is especially problematic if you're in a cold weather climate, the ground is snowy or icy. You certainly don't want to be in a position where you're falling down and hurting yourself. Embarrassment. Again, when we talk about alcohol sort of inhibiting executive functioning and we don't make necessarily very good decisions, we could be putting ourselves in situations that are quite problematic. So you're home with the family, it's Thanksgiving, you and Uncle Joe decide to start sipping whiskey, and then you knock over the Christmas tree and the turkey, and things just get pretty bad for you at night. Actually, well, it didn't happen to me, but it happened to someone that I know. They knocked over a Christmas tree, and there were a lot of glass ornaments. It was very messy.
Yeah, to add on top of that, how many of you are freshmen? You can actually raise your hand for that. How many are actually freshmen? Okay, so there's a decent amount of you that are freshmen. So you guys are a little bit different. The fact going to K-State, you guys have off that whole week before, right? The week of Thanksgiving. So when Chaz mentioned Blackout Wednesday before, well, typically in schools in other regions, that Wednesday is the first day you're actually off of school. You all meet back up, and it's time to kind of show off your newly formed drinking habit that you have. So you're hanging out with your friends from KU, your friends from Washburn, your friends that's going to a community college. You guys all get back together. It's the first time you've been back around each other, and now it's time. And it's not like you're consciously trying to show off your new drinking habit. It's time. And you might be hanging out with a group of friends who go to KU, and they're just drinking tons more than you. And so the whiskey, like Chaz mentioned, just starts flowing, and the embarrassment starts happening. And this happens every year. Mom and dad aren't quite aware of your new drinking patterns and habits. It's a good time to embarrass yourself in front of mom and dad. Emotional instability. Chaz was talking about areas of the brain, and we're going to talk about here in a second exactly how much, a rough estimate, how much alcohol is going to get you to these points. But emotional instability, I'm assuming a handful of you here right now have long-distance relationships going on. And you've had your ups and downs with that. It's hard. It's very hard, especially the first semester being apart. You might have had a few things going on. This is going to be the first time you've seen each other in a few weeks. Well, if you already have some tension going on there, you had a few drinks, boom, just adds a little fuel to the fire. Relatives, maybe Uncle Joe, the one that Chaz mentioned you sipped in whiskey with. You never really liked Uncle Joe, so after a few drinks, you tell Uncle Joe just what the hell heck you think of him. Starts a big old fight going on. Not cool, Arguments, that's easy. Think about it. That happens every year in the holidays. You come home, especially Christmas time, you have a whole month off. Mom and Dad want to see you more often. You want to go hang out with your friends nonstop. And then you come home, you're showing up at 6, 7 a.m. all the time. Well, hello and welcome. And, those are the type of things to be aware of. And we're not saying, don't drink. We're saying that be aware that when you get to dangerous levels, that emotional instability can happen. And then sexually transmitted diseases are on there. Obviously, when you get to a point like Chaz was talking about before, when your inhibitions are lowered, your decision-making's out the window, can lead to some risky decisions when it comes to that. And the hypothermia Chaz was talking about, you guys, for those of you who have actually consumed alcoholic beverages before, and I know there's only one or two of you that have, but for the other ones that haven't, you realize when you had that first drink or two, you kind of had that warm feeling, kind of face gets a little warm, kind of feels kind of good, right? It's all part of that feeling. Well, like Chaz explained before, what's actually happening is blood vessels near the skin are actually being dilated. Blood's rushing there, right? So you get that warm feeling. But what's happening inside? That means blood from your internal organs are actually going to your extremities. Well, you start getting into that blackout stage where you're walking around and don't really know what's going on. Then you go wandering around out in the snow forever. Then you don't know where the heck you're at. Then you get lost, and you start experiencing things like hypothermia. Alcohol poisoning.
So, what are some of the things to do if you think someone has had too much to drink? Say you're at the party, it's New Year's Eve, everyone's feeling kind of good, and there's that one friend that tends to get a little bit too out of control when they're drinking. You may be that one friend. And so you'll want to just kind of be aware of some of the things that you'll notice if they're having too much to drink. So their breathing will slow quite a bit. They have a really difficult time like walking, talking to you. Their speech is very slurred. Hello again. I wish there was a way to turn that off.
I do
don't know how
too.
to do it.
But welcome.
You'll notice that they're like passing out more frequently. They seem very sleepy or very tired. You might just see them and they're just kind of laying somewhere. A good way to test whether or not someone may have alcohol poisoning or they may be really under the influence of alcohol is, so you'll take your knuckles and there's actually this part, so we'll do the Bacchus maneuver next actually. So we're not going to have them lay on the floor because the floor could be kind of dirty. And that's kind of gross. Anyways, so the Bacchus maneuver is something that you can do for a person who may have alcohol poisoning, and let's say that you aren't entirely sure, but you want to make sure that they're safe. Again, if you see someone who's got alcohol poisoning or you suspect it, the best thing to do is call 911. I know, or as of this time last year, there weren't any Good Samaritan laws in Kansas, but I think by and large, if you are trying to do something in the best interest of one of your friends, someone you care about, the police probably aren't going to do anything to you. But the Bacchus maneuver is, again, designed to prevent a person, like I said before, you could choke on your own vomit from choking on their own vomit. And so usually what you want to do is you want to walk up to the person and you'll just kind of say their name a little bit. So you'll say, hey, Mike, are you awake? If he's kind of like responding to me and he's like, yeah, I'm okay. You might then kind of push on a little bit. You don't want to push them too hard. Then you'll actually want to take your knuckles, again, if you're having a really hard time getting them to respond to anything, and you're going to push your knuckles right in their sternum or right in their chest. There's kind of this ridge there, and you're just going to really press. And so usually what happens if a person is fairly with it, they're going to put their hand up and they're going to try and knock it away. If that doesn't happen, again, they're not really responding to anything, then it's okay, let's put this person in the Bacchus maneuver, and then let's call 911. Again, someone might be frustrated with you that they had to go to the emergency room, but I've always erred on the side of possibly saving someone's life and having them mad at me. I can deal with the person being upset for a while. I can't deal with the person being dead. Even someone I didn't really like that much, I can deal with it.
I just want to go back to that real quick, this one here. If you see the signs and symptoms up there, they don't all have to be there. And some myths that I hear people say, they're like, well, he wasn't puking, so if he's not puking or she's not puking, then they can't have alcohol poisoning. You don't have to be puking, okay? And then some people are like, well, he was kind of talking to me. Just because there's some sort of consciousness doesn't mean that they don't either. Err on the side of caution with this is one of the big things to do, okay? You're not a doctor. Most of you probably aren't EMTs. Most of you probably aren't nurses yet. Point being, some of the things that you are, like Chaz was talking about, the breathing. If you ever pay attention to your own breathing, you breathe about 12 to 20 breaths per minute. Okay, someone who has alcohol poisoning, it's going to be very obvious. It's going to be lower than 8 respirations a minute. It might be erratic. You might see them take 3 big breaths, and then you'll see a pause of 10 seconds, stuff like that. You see that, most of you right away would go, wait, there's something wrong here. But those are some of the things to look for. The slurred and incoherent speech, too. When Chaz just shook me there, if I just kind of mumbled back to him, or I was talking about how I wanted to marry a pizza, that doesn't really make much sense, right? Little altered mental status. Unless I want to marry a pizza, that's okay. But stuff like that, things to look for. At this point in your college life, for those of you who are, sophomores and juniors above, you probably have seen at least one person who's had the ambulance called on them and such, and maybe they didn't have alcohol poisoning, but isn't it a lot better to go, hey, at least we called, right? Right, Michael? All right. Standard drink time. Yeah. Now, unfortunately, I did not expect this huge of a turnout. So thank you very much. This is awesome. And I know this has nothing to do with extra credit. But I'm going to hand out a few of these. If you guys could all share, please. It's going to be about 1 to every 2. And if you really don't care, then just don't even grab one, okay? Cool?
Can I get a few more
Yeah.
for this side? Thanks.
I'm going to give you all about a minute or so to hand those around. We're already running people off? Okay, well, everything that's on the handouts on the slides, but I'll just kind of talk through a few things. What is a standard drink? This is something that's been beaten in some of your skulls since you were in 8th grade or 7th grade or 6th grade. And so, typically when I ask, what is it, you guys all come back with, it's 12 ounces of a beer, it's 1.5 ounces of a shot, and something of wine, 4 or 5 ounces, right? All right, so some of you actually blurt that out, and it's awesome. I appreciate that. Here we go right there. Once again, one of the things I like to look at here, for those of you who have actually had a whole fifth of whiskey or vodka, or good old Barton's for $9.99 of whatever it is, you're having 17 shots, my friends. That's 1-7. And a lot of times you do that in 2-3 hours. We're going to look at here in a second where that puts your blood alcohol concentration at. So, once again, 1.5 ounces. When you guys are pouring your shots and making your drinks, are you guys actually using shot glasses and measuring out the 1.5 ounces? Yeah, okay, well, when you are, awesome. If not, here's a good way to look at it. The most classic and famous glassware of the college student, the good old red Solo cup. Comes in multiple colors, blue, green, purple, and a couple others. But if you didn't know, these little lines on here, you see those little lines there? They actually kind of, well, hello and welcome. They actually are kind of giving you a little bit of a guide to how much alcohol you're pouring in there. So, if you're one of those vodka drinkers and you want to, and if you look on the top there of the sheet, it says that this is all for educational purposes. These are guides. Everybody reacts differently to alcohol in their system, okay? And we'll talk more about that here in a second. But if you want to be safe and you said, hey, I'm not going to have any more than 4 drinks over the night, 4 drinks doesn't mean you fill the red Solo cup up halfway and then have 4 of those, because you're actually looking at about 4 to 6 drinks there alone, times 4, that's 16 to 24 drinks. And then when you wake up in a couch out in the middle of nowhere, you don't know where you're at, and you're like, I don't know why I did that. I don't have any clue. I only had 4 drinks. Yeah, you had 16 to 24, okay? So think about that a little bit, okay? Beer, hey, you know, the good thing about beer is if you got it in a can, if it's Budweiser, Coors, whatever, Natural Light, Bud Ice, all that stuff that you all drink, you know what you got, right? You have a 12-ounce can, you know that's one standard drink, right? Cool. Hey, and if you guys have any questions during this, please feel free to raise your hands, and we'll be more than happy to answer, okay? All right. Little BAC, blood alcohol concentration. You guys see those charts on there, and I can tell you, I didn't put them on here, but for those of you, there are some wonderful apps for your smartphone when it comes to tracking your blood alcohol concentration. There's actually a little device, too, a little breathalyzer you can buy that works in conjunction with your iPhone and such if you want to really keep track of it that way. It's only $100 and some, you know. Something I've seen a few people actually have. But, so, Chaz was talking before about what actually happens to the body, what happens to the brain, what happens to the rest of the organs and such when you are drinking alcohol. Well, let's look at some numbers here and figure it out, all right? Let's do a little exercise here. For instance, let's say you are a 180-pound male, and you just did 5 Jaeger bombs, and they were 1.5 ounces, and 5 Jaeger bombs, and you hammered 5 Coors Lights along with that in the last 3 hours. All right? So you have 10 standard drinks in the last 3 hours. So let's look at this little chart here. We got 10 drinks, 180-pound male. That's 0.21. You subtract 0.015 an hour for each hour that has gone by. So that's 0.045 roughly. So you're at about a 0.16, your blood alcohol level. That's in just 3 hours. Does that mean anything to you? Maybe not right now. So I want you to kind of look at this right now and kind of think of your own drinking habits and your drinking patterns and where you're sitting at and how high you're getting your blood alcohol level to, okay? If you look on the front page there, it talks about the good zone. The good zone is anywhere you're looking at between about a 0.05 and 0.08, where studies have shown you get the most bang for your buck, meaning you still get the euphoria, you still get the kind of I'm a little more social, I'm actually able to talk to this girl that I normally couldn't, or I'm actually able to dance, which I still can't, but I think I can dance, but not too extreme. Anything over 0.08 is when we start considering binge drinking. That's not an arbitrary number they just threw a dart at one day and said, hey, this is binge drinking. It's because of the effects I'm going to show you here in a second. Binge drinking, you'll hear many definitions for it. The main one you want to look for is any time you get your blood alcohol concentration to a 0.08 or above in one setting, usually within a 2-hour time frame. Can be over 4 or 5 hours, but point being that's typically what we see in college students. That doesn't mean at 0.09 all of a sudden, you explode and everything goes horrible. No, but I will show you this. As I was saying, so if you look at the little chart, kind of get a little things, a lot of you are doing this already when you are consuming alcohol. You say, hey, I know if I have 4 Coors Lights over the night, I feel good, and that's it. Some of you just drink until you wake up the next day in an alley and don't know who your name is. That's different. So, as I was saying, the 0.08 to 0.10, that's where you start. You still have that euphoria feeling, but if you see at 0.11 and above, these are, that doesn't mean exactly at that, but around that area, you start seeing the depressed feelings. That means you start feeling more tired. Your speech is slurring a little bit more. Your gross motor movement is impaired. Why is that important in this time of season? Wintry weather, it's icy outside, such like that. It's hard enough not to fall on you, straight on your face. So that type of thing, where you'd be able to catch yourself right now, if you walked out on some ice, you catch yourself and not fall. You get to that 0.10 and above, you're not only falling, but you're knocking out your front teeth. You're having 2 root canals the next day, and you broke your ankle. Stuff like that. If you see, it doesn't take too much more to get yourself up into some of those bad areas, like 0.20 and above is when we start seeing some of the real negative side effects. You start seeing people black out. That's at 0.20 and above, you start seeing gag reflexes start, disappearing. Why is that, something to worry about? Well, when you do pass out and you are vomiting, you start choking on your own vomit. As you see, going more down, it doesn't take much to get up to that 0.20 and above. Think about it. Look at the little charts. If you drank for 2 hours, you had 6 shots and 2 beers, just a rough estimate, most of you are going to be at that 0.20 and above area. And you've probably been there already this semester a few times. But you never probably saw this and thought about that. You have anything to add?
So, kind of getting to what it is that we want for you guys is we want you to be safe. Not everyone drinks, and that's great, that's fine, and we highly encourage and we like that people do that. But again, if you're choosing to do it, that's not necessarily a bad thing either. I mean, I guess if you're under the age of 21, there's some legal implications if you're caught. However, it can be a nice time to get together with friends and just sort of relax and again, have fun, but again, you want to do it within reason. So when we look at different things that you want to do in order to drink safely, make a plan. This seems kind of like okay, this is kind of a dumb idea, maybe. However, you want to make sure you know where you're going, who you're going to be with, how you're going to get there, and then how you're going to get back. Part of knowing where you're going and who you're going to be with. Again, if for some reason something were to happen, you'd want someone to know like where it was you're supposed to be. So if they needed to check in on you later, they kind of have a place to start. Usually what we see is if you make a plan, you're going to stick to that plan. And really the individuals that tend to struggle most with this are those that have problems with alcohol. But again, there's a large percentage of people that are moderate drinkers. And so you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to have 6 drinks over the course of the night. We're going to such and such a place for New Year's Eve. I know that Fran, Carol, Bob, and Joe are going to be there. And again, that kind of gets to some of the other things is if you notice that you're in a situation where you don't necessarily feel safe, you're not really familiar with a lot of the people, again, you always want to have a way or a means of like getting out of there. Again, not necessarily anything bad is going to happen, but you want to think about your safety. Back in the day when I was a younger man, I did do some drinking. I do a little drinking now, but I did make some poor decisions, and I was at some club or something like that, and somebody's like, hey, do you want to go to this after party? I'm like, yeah, sure. I didn't know this person. I was living in a town called Crawfordsville, Indiana. It was a bad idea. It was about 17,000 people. We just drive off somewhere out in the country, and I show up to this house, and there's a few individuals that look a little rough around the edges, and I kind of walk in, and they're like, hey, this is so and so, and I'm like, hey guys, and then they all start going to the back room, and I see them pulling out these glass pipes, and I'm like, oh, they're doing meth or crack. So I ended up walking up this road. I didn't know where I was, and I called a friend, and I'm like, I'm at Route 500 and 1,000 something street, and eventually I was able to get relatively close to someplace familiar and got picked up. Designated driver, if for some reason you're, having multiple nights that you're going to go out with friends, maybe one of those evenings you volunteer to be the designated driver. If you're under 21 and they do allow you to the bar, sometimes they will have free drinks if you go in. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Let me just add something to that real quick. I know I myself actually grew up in small town Kansas. It's awesome. Some of you are from small town Kansas, some of you from Johnson County, some of you from wherever it is. Point being, that sober driver thing doesn't mean, I'm not that drunk, but I'll be all right. And it doesn't mean I'm back in my hometown at 300 right now. The cops aren't going to know anything. So, I've only had 12 beers, and that's not what we mean by that. That says sober driver. So when you're back in western Kansas, some of this still applies. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's all right. Sometimes it's a good idea to alternate between an alcoholic beverage and a non-alcoholic beverage. So drinking plenty of water. Some people, what they'll do is they'll have one drink. They'll just kind of hold it for a while. And then once they finish with that, they get a glass of water. Again, that's just kind of a nice way for you to be able to have something in your hand. Sometimes if you don't have anything in your hand, people are like, oh, you need another drink. Let me make one for you. And that's like, no, I'm in a good spot. I know, again, sometimes drinking games are a lot of fun, but you want to avoid that. Essentially drinking games are designed to get you intoxicated a lot faster. They don't play this game anymore, at least I don't think. Has anyone heard of a game called Blow Pong? No? And people stopped playing it because it was kind of dumb. But what you would do is you would have a group of people like sitting around a table, and you would try and blow a ping pong ball off of your opponent's side, and if you were able to get it off, you would win. The problem with that is that you can't breathe, and so people are like passing out at the table. If you can, again, avoiding shots, and if you are going to take a shot, make sure that you're spacing them out. So like, don't take several shots in quick succession. Maybe you're doing like one shot like every hour. Don't accept drinks from strangers, and that seems like a pretty simple idea, but sometimes you may meet someone earlier in the night. They seem like a fairly nice person. They hand you this drink. They're like, here, have this. It's my special brew. You're like, oh, this is lovely. And then you wake up in a bathtub of ice and you're missing a kidney. I'm just kidding. That's just an extreme thing that might happen. Pay attention to your serving sizes. Again, if you're using the solo cup and you've got kind of that reference guide there, make sure that you're sort of measuring things out on your own. Even if it is someone that's one of your friends and they're making a drink for you, they may say, oh, this person, we'll just add a little extra, because I like them. And so you just want to be careful. You want to do that yourself. Again, making your own drinks is important. Don't allow someone that you don't know to make a drink. Looking out for, sometimes there'll be like a large container that has something in it. And if you haven't made that yourself, you don't necessarily know what the contents are. So you want to be really cautious about like just drinking out of large containers. And then if you're on certain medications, you want to be really careful if you're drinking. So if you're taking like an anxiolytic, anti-anxiety medication, that is, if you're taking barbiturates, again, that's something that slows down your central nervous system function. That can even depress central nervous function even more. Certain birth controls, you want to be careful because it may mitigate the effects, or you may have too much to drink, you may vomit, and then it's no longer in your system, and that could increase the likelihood of getting pregnant, unless you want a child, which is great. Kids are cool, so we can move on to the next.
Yeah, and look out. The last one says, look out for one another, the buddy system. As long as you always have one person there watching out for you, that might help save your life or something when you get to that point where you are blacking out. Little Santa right there. I like that. I like Santa.
So sometimes it's important, if drinking is kind of what you're always doing, maybe mixing it up a little bit, finding some alternative activities. So does anyone here, anyone that's willing to share, have anything that they'll do kind of, sometimes it's difficult on a Friday night. It seems like, let's go out and drink. But is there anything else that people do with their friends or to have a good time that doesn't necessarily involve drinking? Going for a walk.
I like to go to the movies. I go to the movies. That's a good one.
Anything else? We can move
I
on.
like to read a book. Yeah, reading books are good too. Yeah, good. That's awesome.
No, so again, just finding some alternative activities. Maybe you do like a game night. One of the things that I sometimes have problems with over the holidays is just all you do is just eat. And while that's good. Say you've been like working really hard during the semester and it's like, I'm getting in great shape, I'm going to be ready for spring break. And then the holidays happen and like all that conditioning just goes out the window. So maybe start encouraging your friends to get together and do more exercise or physical activity related activities. So if you are fortunate enough to be able to get into a gym, go to the gym, invite people to go with you, go swimming, go play basketball or racquetball, team sports, things like that, play volleyball, something that you think is fun.
I recommend you go swimming inside right now.
Yeah.
Okay, just saying.
You can do other things for relaxation. You could do yoga. Sometimes there's like opportunities to do that again if you have a gym membership. The school is a hard time. You guys have been working really hard. it can be a grueling year. You want to make sure that you have some time to yourself. So this could be a good time, again, doing meditation. It doesn't necessarily have to have any sort of religious connotation to it, but doing some meditation, sort of getting your mind in a good place, sort of centering yourself. Take in different activities that are going to be going on around your town. There might be different holiday plays. You might be able to see musical performances. There might be concerts, things like that. If you want to, you can do some volunteer work. This is a really good time if acts of service are something that's really important to you. This could be a really good time to do that. Also, I think that the winter break can be a good time to start planning for the next semester, setting some goals for yourself. Maybe some of your goals are to increase your physical activity. Well, this is a good time, now that you have a little bit more time, to set up a routine for yourself. If you're trying to improve your academics, again, look at, okay, how can I start scheduling things sort of throughout the week so I'm making sure that I'm making study a priority. Or you could pick up a new hobby. Maybe you would like knitting or sculpting, something that, playing with play, something that you think would bring you some enjoyment, but it's also something that can kind of take up some time because, again, there might be some days where there's a bit more of a lull. People might be working over the holidays, you're at home by yourself, your parents are at work, your friends are at work, so it's kind of like finding things to do to keep yourself occupied. So thank you everyone for coming. Are there any questions or concerns? Anyone have any thoughts that they want to share with us? If not, thank you very much for coming. We hope you guys have a safe holiday.